In the Garden of Gethsemane, we witness something that should shake us to our core. The Son of God, the one through whom all things were created, the one who calmed storms with a word, the one who raised the dead, is on his face in the dirt, sweating blood, begging for another way. This is not the picture of God that most of us carry around in our heads. We imagine God as above struggle, beyond pain, immune to the wrestling that marks our human experience. But here in this garden, in the darkest hour before the cross, we see the actual truth. God himself knows what it means to struggle and surrender. And that changes, or should change, everything about how we understand both God and surrender. When we think of surrender, don't we imagine that it's something close to giving up without a fight? Or maybe giving up after you've lost the fight? Something like rolling over and playing dead, or pretending everything's fine when our hearts are breaking. But look at Jesus in Gethsemane. His surrender does not bypass the struggle, it goes straight through it. My soul is crushed with grief to the point of death, he tells Peter, James, and John. The Greek word here is perilupos, and it means to be surrounded by grief, engulfed in sadness. This is not mild discomfort. This is crushing, suffocating anguish, the kind that makes you wonder if you'll even survive it. And what does Jesus do with this overwhelming sorrow? He doesn't stuff it down. He doesn't put on a brave face. He doesn't pretend it's not happening. He takes it straight to the Father. 3 times he prays. 3 times he wrestles. 3 times he has to fight his way through to surrender. Because real surrender, the kind that can change everything, is not passive. Real surrender is the most active thing you'll ever do. Just look at the progression of Jesus' prayers. The first time, my Father, if it is possible, let this cup of suffering be taken away from me. Yet I want your will to be done and not mine. He's asking for another way. He's being honest about what he wants. To not drink this cup of suffering. But he ends with surrender. Not my will, but yours. Now some of us would stop there and think that we're done. We've said the right words, we've surrendered, and we move on. But Jesus goes back to pray again. And something crucial has shifted. The second prayer, and then again to the third prayer, is this: Abba, Father, everything is possible for you. But if this cup cannot pass unless I drink it, your will be done. Do you see the difference? He's no longer asking to avoid the cup or to have it be taken away from him. He's asking for strength to drink it. The battle line is moved. He's not fighting against the cup anymore. He's fighting to accomplish God's will through drinking it. What happened between that first prayer and the others? Luke tells us that an angel appeared and strengthened him. The Father did not remove the struggle. He provided strength in the struggle. He did not take away the cup, but he gave his son what was needed to drink it. And I think this reveals something very profound about the heart of God. He doesn't ask us to do what he hasn't done himself. He doesn't demand a surrender that he hasn't modeled. The God who calls us to take up our cross and carry it first carried his own. The God who asks us to surrender our will first surrendered his. Because, make no mistake, this was real surrender for Jesus. He was not play acting. The agony was genuine. The struggle was authentic. He truly wanted another way. And in his humanity, he had to fight to align his will with the Father's. When he said to the sleeping disciples, "The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak," he wasn't doing some aloof sermonizing. He was in his own life or death struggle against the temptation of the flesh. Hebrews 5:7 tells us that during the days of Jesus' life on earth, he offered up prayers and petitions with fervent cries and tears to the one who could save him from death. Fervent cries and tears. This is what God's surrender looks like. Not stoic acceptance, but agonizing struggle that leads to willing submission. And here's what I think is beautiful. The Father heard him and answered him, not by removing the cup, but by strengthening him to drink it. Not by changing the plan, but by sustaining him through it. The prayer was answered, just not the way we might expect. And that kind of reminded me of the 3 Hebrew boys who were thrown into that fiery furnace. You may remember that story from the Old Testament. Right before they went into the fire, they had also told King Nebuchadnezzar that anything was possible for their God. They knew he could save them from the furnace and from death. He could have even saved them from being cast into the fire at all, but he didn't. In that situation, he did spare them from death by walking in the furnace with them. But their surrender to God's will meant they had to go through the fire. This is so important for us to understand, because when we are in our own Gethsemanes, and we all have them, when we are facing our own cups of suffering, God's not asking us to pretend that it's easy. He's not demanding that we skip the struggle and somehow jump straight to the surrender. He's inviting us to do what Jesus did, to bring our raw, honest anguish to him and to wrestle our way through to your will be done, to go through the fire. There were so many lessons in Gethsemane that God was hoping to give to his people. I think that's why Jesus didn't go to Gethsemane alone. He could have. He could have told all the disciples to wait there at the entrance while he went deep into the garden by himself. But he didn't. He took Peter, James, and John further in with him, the 3 who were closest to him. He asked them to stay and watch what was about to happen. Imagine having the opportunity to have been there with Jesus in those moments, to comfort him while he was going through such agony. The God of the universe was there begging for human companionship in his darkest hour, which is truly remarkable when you think about it. Gethsemane reveals that the one who spoke galaxies into existence, longed for the nearness of friends when going through this awful trial. He wasn't ashamed of his struggle. He was not embarrassed by his need. Jesus demonstrates to us here that even in the economy of heaven, even in the kingdom of God, we need each other when we are fighting to surrender. Human beings were created to be in community. But the disciples just can't stay awake. And though Jesus must be so disappointed, he doesn't condemn them, he sympathizes. I know the spirit is willing, he says, but the flesh is weak. He knows they want to support him. He knows they mean well. He also knows that the devil is on hand to try to twist and distort what's happening here in the garden. So he keeps inviting them to join him, to watch, to pray so they won't fall into temptation. And I think he's essentially saying to them, you're about to face your own Gethsemane. They had no clue. You're about to face your own Gethsemane. You're going to have your own struggle with surrender. Learn from mine. See how it's done. Because the battle that I am fighting tonight, you'll fight tomorrow and for the rest of your lives. And he's trying to show them how to fight, but they just miss out on the whole thing. These men who think they're ready to die with Jesus, we looked at that last week, who think they're ready to die with him, they can't even stay awake for a few moments to pray with him. Maybe they just can't handle seeing the one who they know is so powerful in such pain and anguish. And I kind of feel like the religious world is a bit like that too. Full of people who want to pretend that surrender is easy. Who want to act like following God's will is always joyful and always peaceful and even always clear-cut. But Gethsemane tells us the truth. Sometimes surrender feels like death. Sometimes your will be done has to be fought for through tears and sweat and anguishing prayer. And our God is not disappointed by our struggle. He doesn't expect us to be robots who automatically align with his will. He created us with real desires, real dreams, real hopes. And sometimes in this fallen world, those things clash with his plans, with what he knows is good and best. And what Jesus teaches us is that you can be honest with God about your will, too. You can beg for another way. You can come back again and again with your struggle. What matters isn't that you struggle, it's where you land. What matters isn't that you wrestle, it's that you wrestle with God and not away from him. There are a lot of cups in life that we do not want to drink. Just like Jesus didn't want to drink this cup if there was another way. But often, the road God has for us to walk is one that goes through the suffering. Not around, but through. But when you walk that road, the same God who strengthened Jesus in his struggle will strengthen you. The same Father who sent angels to minister to his Son will send them to minister to you. So bring your struggle to God. Tell him about the cup you do not want to drink. Be honest about your fear, your pain, your desperate wish for another way. He can handle it. He's been there. He's not shocked by your humanity because he's worn it himself. And then watch for the strengthening. It might not come as dramatically as an angel. The girls and I were talking about that in Bible study this week. Man, how cool that, an angel just showed up to Mary and told her she was going to be pregnant. Wouldn't it be cool if an angel showed up and then we thought, no, maybe that would just scare the heck out of us. So your strengthening might not come as dramatically as an angel showing up to you. It might come through a friend who stays up with you into the night. Through a Bible verse that suddenly burns in your mind with new meaning. Through a quiet sense that you're not alone. Or through the simple ability to add to your desperate prayer, but your will be done. Because in the end, that's what Gethsemane teaches us. God does not demand surrender without struggle. He demonstrates surrender through struggle. And in doing so, I think he transforms even our struggling from something that could separate us from God into the very place where we meet him the most profoundly. The God who calls you to surrender has himself surrendered. The God who asks for your will has yielded up his own. The God who leads you through struggle has struggled. And the same power that raised Jesus up from the dead after he drank his cup will certainly raise you up after you drink yours.